Hello everybody to PARCC, Making It Instructional, featuring Google Apps for EDU. Now, by now, most of us know that PARCC is the assessment for readiness of college and careers. A bunch of states got together and created and deployed a set of standard assessments in both math and English. First states to be in on that adventure, and we really had kind of a big push with the PARCC-ness ourselves. We're going to do in today's presentation kind of three big areas. We're going to talk about feedback, we're going to talk about questions worth answering, and online assessments. And those questions, we're going to focus in on the math ones, but if we get questions from the crowd and have time, I can show you the reading ones as well. But let's start first with providing feedback. One of the things that I started doing my PARCC research is they said you have to include written feedback to students about what they're doing. And I just know this from PARCC, like as a fundamental core value in MCPS, this is a skill teacher right up their alley. And feedback isn't praise. It's not yay and good job and wonderful. These are superlatives to have a place in our classroom. But feedback is that specific criticism and critique of what our students are doing with an eye in mind on getting better. The problem I have found with feedback is that we actually have to write it. So I'm going to show you a trick today that takes that handwritten problem out of it. My screen is going to change, and that's supposed to happen. And I'll share, I had a friend, clean up. I had a friend who once got stamps made that said things like, use supporting evidence to back up your point, and just make stamps. So I've seen lots of strategies for how to do this, and I'm going to give you one of my favorite using googly tools. If you roll your cursor up to the top of the screen, you'll see the chat bar so you can communicate with me, and I'm throwing a link to this document in the chat. If you're live with me now or watching on a recording, you can click on that link and come to this document. And I'm going to invite folks, Jenny, guys, to do this with me right now. Great. There's some ways to give feedback in a document. And before we get to there, I'm going to ask everybody on screen right now to write 3 of their favorite places to go on vacation. So go ahead and find some space. We know when we work collaboratively in documents, you don't want to write over each other. So go ahead and find some and write 3 of your favorite places to go on vacation. Awesome. So we've entered these guys, and I might want to give you feedback on these pieces. Conversation or get it going here. Maybe the feedback is you should, of course, capitalize and did a nice job with Ocean City, Maryland, but I want feedback. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight whatever I want to talk about, like Ocean City, Maryland, and then come up here to the button that says comments. You comment and press comment. I can give information. I could give feedback. I'm just going to say, that I've been here since, and that would be here, since week, right? But you can see what I did is I left a comment. It's attached to this piece of text, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. And then you're actually able to have a conversation around that feedback. So I'll invite both Jenny and Lynn to add comments by clicking on my feedback. Cancel. Just go right here and reply and add a conversation back with your senior week. It's just in the box and pressing reply, and once you press submit, we all see the conversation. This part of the screen on your doc, and just click and reply. So Lynn here to New York City for her college spring break, and that was super fun. Now, we're just having fun. Like, we're just adding information back and forth. But the truth of the matter is, this is a great way to give kids feedback and have a conversation. Let's say that you have a piece of evidence here, and this was an argument about the best places in the world to go on vacation. So I sure want to come in and say that this is a slacker piece of evidence. I'm being judgmental there, but I would come here and go, I would all that because that is not the best feedback, but I would come in and you get the point. You put in your minutes, right? So what we're doing is we're having a conversation around this, and it's a great way to give feedback. Maybe you want to get feedback out, and you're a little bit more, you say the same things over and over again. You're like my friend Sharon, who has stamps made for things like use supporting evidence. Stamps she puts on pieces of paper. So I'm going to ask in the chat, what's the most common feedback you think you give students? Like, what's the most common thing that you say? You can go ahead and throw it in the chat, or you can actually write it in the document. Either way works. In fact, go ahead, write it in the document. What's the most common thing that you say over and over again? Oh, I got Jenny's here. Great start, but you need to prep evidence from the text. So I highlighted it. I'm going to right-click and press copy. You come up here. Wouldn't it be great if that could just pop when I was writing with no trouble? Well, you can. If you go to Tools and Preferences, I can use codes to make this stuff happen. So I want to replace the code C1 as the first comment with this text. Then okay. So what just happens? Now when I'm reading the document, if I type C1 in here, put a comment in there. So let's do that again. You highlight it, you go copy, you go up to Tools, you're setting your own preferences, and this time maybe I'll say comment C9. I can't possibly have 9 comments. As you know, we do this happy hour every year, so if you're watching now, 2016, it'll be even better next year. And I'll go ahead. And now I'm writing along, and I see this here. I want to say C9. Great start, but you need to put evidence, or I can go C9 and not yell it. So this way, when you're typing, if there's things you say over and over and over again to kids, you don't have to retype them. You just know that that's your C1 comment. Or let's see if I have a C2. I do not. C3. You get the hang of your own. I oftentimes do things like I type fake text. I have my own codes for myself. However works for you, go for it. Using Tools and Preferences. Another fun way to use that is to use your initials. So to writing something all the time like Carrie, I turn this into CB, and that can automatically pop as a piece. Now that's definitely the coolest. I'm voice typing. If you've ever used this in the chat, you can give me a yes or a couple exclamation points. Because, oops, let me allow. Because typing is really cool, exclamation point. You can use it to type what you say, comma. So if you have feedback for students, you can just say it out loud, period, paragraph. If you're going to tell them they need more supporting evidence, more supporting evidence. It's not. And just keep moving if you need to. Period. New paragraph. Is sweet? Question mark. I typing. Period. Then your voice types. Really easy. Come over here to comment. Comment. Feature, by the way, that it just once you've made one comment, it kind of hangs out over here whenever you highlight, which is super slick and easy. And we've added real feedback to your students in real time. The other nice thing about voice typing is when comma get it, period. dictation was what people used to do. You take to a secretary. And it was something they had to get good at. I've used I love my Siri. I love my voice typing. When you're doing this, don't be frustrated at first. You'll get the case down. You'll get the way you pronounce words down. You'll get better at it. And if you don't know what to say, just get quiet. So I use this with kids, especially students who struggle with typing. No, just like we teach them to get better at typing, they get better at writing, they get better at doing math. You know what? They're going to get better at this too. It's actually a skill. If you have any questions about those three, I showed you how you can do a comment by pressing comment, or just highlighting text and looking for the little floaty button over here. You can also make your own autocorrects by going Tools, and you can also get to voice typing by Tools, Voice Typing. This is that we're giving kids strong feedback, and that feedback is in real time. So collaborative features in the Google Docs really are helpful. Strategy comes into, actually I want to pop over to questions worth asking. Questions worth asking. One of the things that PARCC really wanted to do was ask kids challenging real world things that they have to manage. This isn't a test, particularly in the math area, of just plug in the numbers and you got it. They're always asking kids to think. And there are three types of math questions that you get kids used to doing. Some it's useful to get them used to doing them on a device or a computer, but others are thinking problems that even if you're giving them paper pencil, getting them in this habit is really useful. Type 1 are tasks that assess concepts, skills, and procedures. So they want to see fluency from a student. They want to do that. They're machine scoreable. So there's a right and a wrong answer based on what you choose. Of one right here. So going on here is use the drop-down menu to complete the equation, and then what's the final answer? I've noticed from looking at these math-style questions that there's normally a part A and a part B. Part A asks you to show your thinking of some way, shape, or form, so that's useful and helpful. Part B allows you to then put in the right answer, so that's where you would expect and find the correct answer. If you have questions about type 1, go ahead and throw that in the chat. If you can use the strategy of an emoticon and let me know. Good. Type S, expressing mathematical reasoning. So I always feel like this is like word answers. But it is asking for written arguments or justification of their reasoning. So they want to know why the kids are doing what they do. So it's a mix of machine scored and hand scored. They try to do clever things to get those pieces in, and they typically have a part 1 and a part 2, an A and a B as well. So you can see that they look for specific types of thinking here where they fill in, and then they give them an open area in which to write their answer. Now, just 4, when you think, like getting them to have to explain their work, which we've been doing for years in math. I use that the Royal MCPS way. I have not personally been getting them to do their math, but I know you guys have out there. But the second part of this is getting them used to using online math editors to help support their answers. While this isn't particularly tricky, it could get in the way of a student who doesn't know how to use these tools. So this is something really handy for them used to the experience. Asking challenging questions, getting into inquiry, having them justify the work, all of these are computer or real-world based things to do, but there's also the point where you want to make sure they know how to use the math symbols and get into an editor like this. 3 questions. Modeling applications. So tasks that model applications. These are kind of real challenging questions. They ask for a real world problem that they want kids to get in and use lots of mathematical standards to practice. Sadly, if you've seen things like I do when people decide to like go Facebook crazy on the questions, they're normally getting mad at these types of questions. But that ending, we're actually asking kids here to do is go through a lot of problem solving, which is actually what, if you're going to be an engineer, this is exactly the type of thinking we need people to do, and that our students are being prepared for. So they should be used to getting a problem, moving through each of their different steps, and justifying it. This is just, this is your the algebra of my day. This isn't make sure you know your math facts. This is, can you take a problem and work through all the steps, both hand-scored and machine-scored? These types of ideas. If you're like, hey, I want to know more about that, that is really awesome. You can find these pieces with some modeling and examples online. If you have types of math questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. If you'd like me to jump and do the reading ones as well, I'd be glad to. Just throw that in the chat too. And third claim, let's talk about the questions worth asking from a reading point of view. There are three types of questions, again, for reading. I'm starting with prose constructed response. You know what? We've already we call questions. They really are written responses. Now, why aren't they just your mom's essay question? Well, they do ask students to look at texts, oftentimes multiple texts, and be able to draw a conclusion. Just looking at videos, you may have students looking at items like this. That is completely normal to have multiple types and to have to reference them over here. Now, what's kind of funny about this one, and actually show you something on my screen, is look at the size of this small box right here. I'll switch and show something on my screen for you right now. Because one of, this is, oddly enough, this is one of the barriers that folks have to on the test, and yet it's a simple text moment. Something's going to change for just a sec. That box looks small. Make sure you view my form here. Since the box looks small, students tend to write small. Oops. By the way, when I popped over, and let me make sure to add in a here. All right, let's go back to preview. The box is so tiny, when students come in and look at it, they think they only need to write a little bit of information. And look again. See this box? Kids tend to write the space that you give them. So you're watching kids look at essay questions, even AP students, Lynn, I saw a lot of this, and they stop right here because they have filled up the text. Well, that's actually not an essay. It's not enough. So you can teach your kids to open in forms to give themselves more space. This won't actually right now that we know of, they don't let them do that on the PARCC exam, but getting them used to, just because it's a small space, not writing small is really handy. Another tip or trick, technically, when students take the tests, is we saw students figure this out on their own. They went and wrote in the notes section and then cut and pasted it into this area, and that really helps them out a lot. So the first is a prose constructed response. Our technology-enhanced constructed response. Now, when I look at this, I think they didn't want to pay people to, write all the writing, and they didn't want to just do multiple choice, so they had to come up with something. Now, luckily, the tech is cool, but it's not technology that makes these questions challenging. It's thinking. When you're looking at right here, you see a text, and the students have to pull details from the story to back up a point of view. Well, you don't need a computer to do that. Sure, they need to know how to drag and drop, and that's awesome. But the thinking can be done in your classroom all the time. Writing for argument, backing up your opinion with facts, all that great stuff is what you're seeing in technology-enhanced questions. The first set of questions are actually evidence-based selected responses. These are not your brother's multiple choice. They have a very specific pattern. You look at a document of some sort, and there's a part A and a part B. So the part A always asks you to do something with the text. So what's the meaning of master in paragraph 32? Well, you look at text, you figure it out. That's kind of the new piece for us. Ask you to make some decision about this. So if this means master, which piece of text backs up your answer? Ask kids these types of questions, gets them used to the process, even if you're not using the text to do it. Thanks. You're right, it's so important to model having the kids know how to take these questions, especially in the prose response, because they need to be used to writing long even when the space enough is small. These three types of questions, go ahead and throw a smiley face or a yes or an indication in the chat, and we'll move to the next area. So jump on into technical tricks. I'm actually going to take everybody back. I'm going to actually take everybody. Let's go to our Teddy test here. I'm going to throw a link in the chat and then switch my screen so you can see where I am. Google Forms. I'm actually in the old forms here. In our park yesterday, we did new forms. So I'm going to hang in old forms for today. And I want to show you that you can edit this form if you've been given rights. You may not have been given, you haven't been given rights, but I have them. So I'm going to click Edit Form. Important areas of forms here. This is, you really are in good shape if you automatically collect the student's username when collecting information from students. It just means that, they're going to have to log in and you're going to know who did what answer. Then your form have a variety of questions like name and period. This makes a lot of sense. Questions, it's not that easy to just write math questions. So there are some different add-ons that you can use to make your math questions sound awesome. I'm going to do those add-ons up here. And that we found the most success with is GMath for Forms. If you don't go to Get Add-ons, and you come up here, let's do GMath. You do mathematical expressions, a graph, a statistical display, writing entry, and a multiple choice question. It creates a math expression and show you that. Title. Title, your help text, which is the math question. It'll be the 10 in the bottom. And see, I don't necessarily want to do that. I want to insert other pieces in here. I can come here and pick all my little formulas. I can do math pieces. I was not a math teacher. I just know that you can enter this fun data here. Like this, bigger or smaller, which is just awesome. I'll throw numbers in there and press insert. And what happens is it comes over and puts in your fancy equation. Now, teachers everywhere are rolling over and groaning at my math there, but know that you are, that's why you're the professional at this and not me, is that you can go in and enter all this information. It gets entered. You can add in things like lines and other pieces. And what's doing is it's putting an image in here. If you wanted to change your image, you don't necessarily have to use the math expression. You can click image. And then it lets you upload an image you've already written or take a snapshot. I'm actually going to turn it. I'm actually going to share this is shared with Lynn by clicking on Send Form and Add Collaborators. And so let's put Lynn in here. I did it with her. And what Lynn has is this is neat. Having to draw up the image or your math problem and go through all this trouble over here, which is just fine. What if you just had a math problem you already wrote on a piece of paper? Equals 4. And we'll take a picture of that question and have the kids answer it that way. For some people, that's an easier way to get the problem in. So then I'm going to switch over to you. And if you can text on your screen, and then demo how you can take a picture of that when you click on Change Image.
Yep. Wait, I did have it up. Away. Oh, here I am. Can you screen? I'm hearing it.
Good. I just made you I gave you the ball, so now you're in charge.
Come in.
So share this with Lynn. She's able to get to edit as well.
Yep, I edited it. So when I hear, I could every time. Right here, I have the option. I can, as Carrie said, you can look for different places for pictures, but one of them is to take a snapshot. And if I have a prepared image, like I could do from anywhere, so let me just really quickly, 4 plus 4 equals 8. So I have my picture. Here's my, I've done it. I can find it right on the screen. And I can throw that right into my, right in a form. So then we'll have that image available. There. I have my proof and submit. Yay.
And Lynn didn't know when her computer came with a camera and mine didn't, that she would be my on-camera assistant. But first, for younger kids, it's kind of fun if they see you. For older students, you know, you get a nice piece of paper and you center that. If that's faster for you, you can insert your items that way.
Yes, I could trash this and do a better picture. Can I? Let's just do another demo quickly here. So just to give you another image, I can do just my numbers. You can barely see anything else. There we go. And better. More math.
You passed for today. And I'll pull back control, and I'll show you our last trick actually comes with an add-on where you can take an image on the screen. So if you're good when if you're pretty proficient, I'm actually going to take you over to Google and take you back to Docs. We had a fun sample test run, and I'll throw that back in the chat because we're here. Just here's our chat where we are. Write your math in here. There's an add-on here for GMath. You can do things like create a graph. I'm going to recommend, yes, math. You may look at my stuff. Over here, you have all of these handy-dandy items. You can enter in your pieces and then submit. Here's my graph. Isn't that fantastic? Well, you know what? I can take this and I can right-click. I can get everything in here, but I can also, let me set it up, I could also take a screenshot. So if I wanted to take a screenshot of this, I can use an add-on called, I have them out there, I'm going to recommend Awesome Screenshot, and you can go in and take a picture of this screen. Now, how do you get an add-on? You do that by going to the Chrome store. So we'll do Chrome Store. There are dozens of free screen takers out there. I like Awesome Screenshot. Not installed on your personal machine, you can just go up and we're going to recommend you go to extensions. Now the reason extensions are fantastic is they are available from every web page that you go to. So no matter where you are, you'll see this little extension pop up here. And during test run, you click on it. If you want to take, I want to capture a selected area. I have a very clean capture of which I can then save to my Google Drive and insert into forms. And awesome screenshot. And if you don't have to look any further, here's a link to it straight in the chat. If you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And if you give me an emoticon. The technical tips and tricks we give you, you know what? It's not a bad idea to use the resources that you already have at your disposal, right? And that means finding examples that work well that you don't make yourself. So there are lots of places out there that purport to do this back and forth, and I'm going to show you some of the examples that really helped me out as I was getting these in a habit. This site is made out of Ohio, and it is handy dandy. has lots of examples of so go visit this page. And now, or I'm going to throw that in the chat for you right now. You can go back and look at what each of these look like. And for me as a teacher, I looked at it and said, oh, I can write test items like that. So it helped me figure out what, when they say drag and drop or text editor or drag paragraph, what do they mean? These showed me what they meant. You can free sites out there that allow the kids to practice and play. So they can get in and try out different types of questions without having to. I like this Luminous Learning because it gave them a variety of free sites that they could, you don't have to log in, you don't have to give your kid data away, you don't want to do that. But the site helps the kids, you can practice, sample practice questions. We've recommended this before, but this is the Literacy Design Collaborative. And there, a group of states got together, they got a grant, and they wrote writing prompts that help you write PARCC-like items. By PARCC-like, we mean items that make kids think. And so you could take these templates and throw them into your instruction, and you know what? You have to have a Chromebook within a mile of you. If you're teaching kids to think like this, they're going to do well on the PARCC test. Time to put some of it together, and I throw up an example here for you. We didn't go over all through forms. We do that actually in the other PARCC video, but you'll see here that this is what PARCC items tend to look like. There's a reading on the side and 2 questions. If you make items in forms, you can do multiple choice and insert images, as Lynn showed you. And it's not perfect. This isn't a one-to-one PARCC to PARCC. It looks exactly like it experience, but you can use forms to fake out a PARCC-like experience for your students. Up here, because I had my last, my check for understanding as we end, what type of question is this? Go ahead and throw it in the chat. Is evidence-based selected response, technology enhanced, or prose constructed response? In recording cyberspace, I know you're yelling the answer right now at the screen. I know you can't put it in the chat. And Lynn is too, right? It's look like, but being able to name them and use that verbiage, not only will it impress your school administrators, it's one of those things that helps get us connected. This question, where you ask them to look at something and do 2 parts. What's in the text, and then back it up, is an evidence-based selected response. And if you think about it, the name will give you the hint. The selected response means you're selecting a response. But evidence-based is the hint. There's always a part where they ask you to use evidence from the text to back something up. Make it back up. Make it back up. And useful for faking it out. For doing type of technology in constructed responses is one where the students actually have to go to the text and highlight something directly in the text to back up their point of view. So you see on your screen right now, I didn't pause for an answer there. Sorry, guys. I got ahead of myself. It's a technology enhanced question, where students actually come in, drag and drop an answer to back it up. That's pretty cool. It's also something they're not necessarily used to doing. So we're actually going to highlight one more app for you. I'm going to share on my screen because we are in love here with Highlight Summarizer. So share this last for you before we roll. Here to test run. And because isn't Google so great that we can always get back to text, I'm going to roll back my text to what you guys wrote earlier before we went all math on you, and we're going to restore this version. Show you what this awesome add-on called Highlight Summarizer does. If you don't have it, just search Highlight Summarizer and get add-on, and then you click on it, and you'll say Summarize. And it's not going to do anything yet. Anything. It just gave me the word summary. What you highlight. So let's say the whole class got together and wrote a list of favorite places they want to visit. On the right one. What you do with this information is you come up into your text here. I want to go to highlight. See that little says A? That typically you'd be like, oh, I'm changing the color of my text. But if you swap to highlight, and then you can highlight text and color. So I'll say my favorite ones will be in green. Okay, ones are in yellow. So let me find my favorite ones. I've never been to Sandbridge Beach. Where I got it. And then places I never want to go ever will be. You can imagine students going through a large text and highlighting social in yellow, economic in green. You know, you could say pick good evidence of hits versus facts, highlight blue to green, right? So you go through this, and then you come up to highlight summarizer, and this time you'll see the magic. My yellow were okay places. My red were bad places. My green were awesome places. It allows any amount of text that you have on your screen to go through and highlight it. The colors, when you click summarize at the bottom of the screen. Student in mind already, then actually if I knew, so this is something, if I knew that my red is going to be bad places, like let's say I did that, I can come up the top and write bad places, I can put good places, and I can put okay places. You can students learn this trick. Highlight bad places in red, places in green, places in yellow. Now I'm going to do my highlight summarizer. I'm doing down here because the first item on my list is always the title of the list. I have dozens of ways to use this. If you have one in your mind right now that you're thinking of, go ahead and throw it in the chat. It is super handy, and it gets kids in the habit of going into the text and doing things with it. Does it completely mimic a technology-enhanced question that allows you to drag and drop things? No, but the thinking is there, and the strategy is really handy. That's true. It's a great way to have students collaborate and share their thinking. If 5 or 6 of us were highlighting at the same time, all of us can be contributing to the work. So each student could have a different topic. You do economic, you do social, you do military, you do political, and then all the work comes together in one document. At that moment, at that folksy, when you say colloquialism that I ended on is a great moment to pause and let you know that if these ideas have inspired you, fantastic. You can always go back and watch this video again to get more information or connect live and in person with your instructional technology specialist. Every school has at least 2, and we're available to help you with anything you see on Appy Hour. Also, that we come back and do more shows, so you can visit our support site anytime you want and get really cool ideas, tips, and tricks about what's going on and what's happening. Also, and I got in the chat, so you can get there and check out our recorded shows. And if you want information, don't hesitate to follow us on Twitter. We always tell you about Appy Hour. We're the first ones to push out the recorded shows. And if you do something really cool, Twitter or email, let us know. And who knows, you might be on Appy Hour highlighting your cool trick for instruction for all of MCPS. Thanks, everybody, for coming today, whether you watch live or as a recording. Make sure you fill out the form that pops up when you close out this window, and because we have your feedback. And if you've attended today, we'll make sure to give you PDO credit as well. Thanks, everybody, and keep connecting cool apps with Rockstar Instruction.